Welcome to A View from the C-Suite, local leaders on the future of work. I'm joined today by a well-known group of San Antonio C-Suite leaders who need no introduction, but I'll introduce them briefly anyway so that we can spend the majority of our time in conversation. Bryant Ambelang serves as Chief Executive Officer of San Antonio-based Silver Ventures, whose stated vision is to continuously transform the city through repeatedly reinventing the shared experience of food and learning. Silver Ventures is known locally for its growing portfolio of food, hospitality, and real estate development projects, including Hotel Emma, Pearl, Potluck, Oxbow, Pullman Market, and Stable Hall. Bryant and his wife, Mary, have 5 children and 3 grandchildren, with another grandson, there you go, 4. Well, we're so glad to have you. Peter J. Holt couldn't join us today. I know some of you were expecting him. Standing in is the legendary R.C. Buford, currently in his 36th season. With Spurs Sports and Entertainment, Buford was named CEO in 2019, directing a team of 500 plus full-time and 1,000 plus part-time staff. Spurs Sports and Entertainment owns and operates the San Antonio Spurs, the Austin Spurs, which is part of the NBA's G League, and the San Antonio FC soccer team, as well as manages the day-to-day operations of the Frost Bank Center, the Rocket La Cantera, Toyota Field, and Star Complex. RC and his wife are both athletes. RC played basketball at Texas A&M University, and his wife, Beth, is a former golfer on the LPGA Tour. Debbie Stroud is with us, joined Whataburger as president and CEO at the beginning of last year after supporting the company through a growth spurt, expanding to 1,125 restaurants and bringing fan favorite products to grocery shelves in 38 states and Mexico. She came to Whataburger after leading U.S. retail operations for a small company you might know called Starbucks, where she also previously spent 27 years with McDonald's serving in financial and operational roles. She lives in San Antonio with her family, and she identifies as a Spurs fan, especially Victor Wembanyama. Juan C. Andrade has served as the president and CEO of USAA since April 2025. Headquartered here in San Antonio, USAA ranks among the most respected financial service organizations in the country. It was listed at number 93 on the Fortune 500 list in 2025 and is known in the local community for its philanthropic efforts. Juan has served on USAA's board of directors since 2020, and he's had an acclaimed career in both the private and public sectors, including at the Pentagon, Drug Enforcement Association, and the White House during the Reagan and H.W. Bush administrations. I also noticed you have a bachelor's degree in journalism and are a member of the University of Florida's Journalism School Hall of Fame. Welcome. Now, we could have an hour-long conversation with each of you, but the special thing about what we're doing today is grouping all of you together on one stage. Together, you account for a pretty significant portion of our local economy. Let's get right to it. When I sat on the first ever View from the C-Suite stage 2 years ago, I asked about artificial intelligence and how our business leaders were viewing the game-changing technology. Today, we're not just talking about the specter or possibility of AI anymore. Now we're talking about the ubiquity of AI. This technology is now a part of our daily lives in a way that even 2 years ago felt futuristic. Businesses, by necessity, have to adapt to change more quickly than the average person. So I'd like to ask anyone who'd like to jump in on this one, what has changed in the past couple of years, and how are you handling the moment we're at with this new technology? We'll actually start with Juan on that one.
No, that's terrific. I mean, look, from our perspective, it's pretty straightforward. AI is real, and it's here to stay. So this is one of these things where there are no fast followers. So this is not an opportunity that if you're sitting in a company and you're not too sure about it, that you're waiting for your competitors to maybe take the first steps, et cetera. This is something that you're either in or you're out. And so at USAA, we've been very focused on this for the last number of years. And it's pretty straightforward because it really starts with your data and your analytic capabilities. So for us, we spent about 5 years making sure that our data was clean, that it was organized, that it was structured in sort of the right way, so you could use it with these large language models that are out there from an AI perspective. Our intent at USAA is really to use it for three very strategic things. Number one is, how do we improve our claims process? Our property casualty company is our biggest company. It's about $38 billion in revenues, and we take in close to 6 million claims a year. Tremendous opportunity to improve the member experience by using that technology and making it a lot faster in the way we can react to it. The second one for us is really all about pricing and underwriting. Our industry is not known for great innovation. This is one of these things that could probably propel you and leapfrog you in front of your competitors if you use it correctly. And the third way we use it is really for the member experience. How do we connect the company on a horizontal basis? So when a member calls us, we can actually provide banking, finance, life, and property casualty insurance products to you in a pretty seamless way in that point in time. That's the fun part of AI. Now, there's another part of AI, which is the really worrisome part of it, which is what I call defense. And that's really protecting our companies from cyber attack. And particularly as these tools become so much more sophisticated, you now get AI tools going up against AI tools to try to penetrate your company. And that becomes a very real concern for a lot of us. So we spend a significant amount of time, money, energy, et cetera, in increasing the protection levels of the enterprise. But that is something that we really need to keep in mind, is not only the good part of AI and what you could do with it, but also it's the other side. The bad guys have the same tools. So these are just some of the thoughts.
Great. Debbie, go ahead.
It's interesting. I would say that we're going through a big initiative of educating ourselves on how does AI become part of our business. To your point, it's about getting your data straight. It is not just using it to become more efficient or save money. Those are all very interesting topics, but it's really about how does it become embedded in the normal routines of your business to enhance the experience. So at Whataburger, we're going to stay focused on what's brought us through 76 years, which is we're a very human-based experience. And so it's interesting because even as things become a lot more automated, what I think that we all need as humans is that connection. And so we will stay true to that part about how do you gather and create that experience, over food or through a drive-through or, yes, even digitally, but how do you create that experience that's very human? Now, that doesn't mean that AI doesn't play a role behind the scenes in terms of anticipating and creating those moments to be very special. But it is a very human experience for us at the root of it all. But when you think about building a new app, improving your loyalty platform, those are ways where AI can be a lot more special to each one of you in the room individually so that we can connect with you in a way that is memorable.
RC, you have human players, but tell us about how AI affects you all.
So our basketball player analytics, player selection process has used large language models, LLMs, for the last 10 years. And as AI was coming into, vogue's the wrong word, but just as it was being thrown at us so quickly, we approached OpenAI and became the first professional sports team in North America with a enterprise relationship with OpenAI, and it's allowed us to first work on the activation across the organization. We're about 90% activation across our organization on people that are using it. And then we are now trying to take it for efficiencies, for return on investment, for doing the personalized experience for what we can bring to our fans. We had a Michelob Ultra tunnel that you see the players walk through when they come into every game. Well, we had an activation where fans could go through the Michelob Ultra tunnel through using our OpenAI modeling. And so how we can personalize the experience, how we can take it and create competitive advantages. I think that was our focus to begin with. And community groups in San Antonio that are being trained on OpenAI and how it can impact their existence, the problems. We're really trying. Many times, we're oftentimes trying to solve similar problems, and how can what we're learning together through that experience help us grow?
Bryant.
So I asked Claude how to answer this question before I came here today. And then I disagreed with it. And I said, no, that's not the way to think about this. And then I reframed it. But I want all of you to just think about that. Like, if I were in a conversation with another human being, I wouldn't be able to just say, no, you're wrong. I'd have to figure out culturally, how do we engage in a conversation? And that's one thing that I know our organization has our eyes on, is how do we not change culturally, because we're interacting with something that feels so human, and yet we can't interact with each other that way. So how do we build the, as they call them, soft skills to be able to get through that? That's one. The second part, because a lot of smart stuff's already been said, the really hard part of this is that a significant portion of the workforce is going to get displaced. That's the reality. And if I think about big events like NAFTA, for instance, that had the same effect and we left a lot of people behind, how do other industries pick up the slack of retraining? And I can tell you, hospitality is ready to take all this talent. I'm very, very excited about the opportunity to retrain and pull a lot of talent that may not have a home in its current organization and pull them into an industry that's in need of significant talent.
An interesting perspective. And thank you all. I felt like we got a good kind of overview in each of your answers of the opportunities, but there are also challenges that come with AI, as you mentioned, the workforce question, as well as ethically and environmentally. There are concerns with the widespread use of this on, massive company scale. Maybe Juan, do you talk about how you think about kind of the downsides of AI?
No, absolutely. And I think what Bryant was saying is absolutely right. I tend to be a bit more of an optimist in the sense that every time there's been major technological changes in our history, there have been sectors of the economy that didn't exist before that open up, and that creates the opportunity to absorb some of the jobs that may be lost in other segments of the economy. What I say to people when they ask me about, am I going to lose my job to AI? My answer to them is typically, you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you will lose it to somebody that knows AI. And I think that was a little bit of the points that were being made up here about retraining and upskilling the workforce. So people do have a future when it comes to that. So I think managing the workforce and employment, I think, is a part of that. The other threat is the one that I mentioned, which is the cyber warfare kind of issues, et cetera. And there are definitely issues with big data centers and electricity and water usage and all these things that we all have to be very mindful about. We're already starting to see some of that develop in particular towns. It's the old, not in my neighborhood, right? Not in my backyard kind of thing. So you have people like Elon Musk and others now starting to think about, well, you put them up in the moon or you put them up in Mars, and what are you going to do with all that stuff? But that's a very real concern, because real Americans are paying increased electricity bills as a result of that for the benefit of other large companies. And that's not going to be a sustainable model. Our regulators, our legislators are not going to allow that to happen.
Any additional thoughts on the downsides of AI?
I just think how we make this more human. And also, we're going to use it to figure out how to keep the Knicks fans out of our building.
Amen.
Appreciate that. I think San Antonio agrees with that one. Well, this is a fascinating grouping of San Antonio brands on stage: the Spurs, Whataburger, USAA, and Pearl, and others. Each one is very well associated with our community, but in nearly every case, your businesses have also expanded their brands nationally and even globally. USAA's 284-acre headquarters in San Antonio famously has its own zip code, but the company has also grown into one of the largest financial services and insurance organizations in the U.S. since its founding here more than a century ago. The Spurs are just coming off a hugely exciting NBA Finals run. The team is stocked with young talent, plus has been working to build its fan base by playing several home games in Austin and international games too. Whataburger is headquartered and based here too, but you can get a Whatameal as far east as the Florida coast and as far west as Las Vegas. And the 2019 announcement that a Chicago-based investment firm acquired a majority stake in this beloved Texas institution made waves, stoking fears that y'all would move or change, prompting an open letter on social media with a promise that we will always be Texan. So I'm curious how you maintain your San Antonio identities and consider the needs of your workforces and customers here, while also expanding your brands and businesses in search of new opportunities. Debbie, can you take that one first for Whataburger?
I would love to. You know what? So the legacy of giving, we think about it as it's a little bit of Texas taste that everyone should enjoy. And there is such a warm welcome to take a brand like Whataburger to new places and new communities. It is just incredible. I was just in North Carolina, which is our 17th state that we just opened. We're now up to over 1,200 restaurants across the US. And I'm sitting in the lobby and I sit down to grab lunch, and across from me in a booth are two gentlemen, and guess where they're from? Fort Worth and Houston. And they are so excited to discover the taste of Texas again. And we're just effusive about, thank you so much for bringing Texas to us. Now, the truth of the matter is Texas is a wonderful place to do business, and San Antonio is a wonderful place to call home. And we've opened over 81 restaurants in Texas alone over the course of the last 5 years since 2020, and 6 in San Antonio. So we're focused on growth in Texas. I think when you really think about how do you stay true to who you are as a brand, I think that comes with a very deep culture of the people that have built the brand over time and who continue to steward the brand into the future. And that's rooted in, first of all, our people. That matters very much to us. I get up every day thinking about the people that put on an orange shirt to serve others. And it's the pride, care, and love of the quality of the food that we serve. We are a better burger. And not too bad in the chicken area either. And breakfast and Water Freshers. And so we're going to grow. We're going to grow and change when you think about the things that you go through over decades of being a successful brand. We will grow and change. We will do so by listening to our customers. We will do so by expanding to new geographies. And we will also stay true to the pride, care, and love that got us here.
RC, can you speak to how the Spurs considers themselves both a local and international brand?
So in the NBA, we're the 26th smallest market. To be competitive in this type of environment, we had to look differently at the way we built our teams. And that started back in the 90s with drafting Manu Ginobili and have always been an incredibly international team. 11 of our 14 players on the championship team were born outside of the continental United States. That, we believe, has carried our brand around the world to where if you travel places and you say you're from San Antonio, many times the first thing people will say is, how about the Spurs? And that responsibility to carry the voice of San Antonio to the world has always been one of the things we're most proud of. And I think the Holt family leadership, the community of investors, beginning when Red McCombs and Angelo DeRosas brought the team to San Antonio, has what's made this different, but it's also given us unique opportunities to change and to grow our perception. We think, Secretary Cisneros and the mega region, that's a huge opportunity. If we can turn from the 26th largest market to the 6th or 7th largest market, now we'll be kicking ass in a lot of new places. Excuse my French. Since we have Victor, I get to say that a lot. And so bringing bringing people across our communities to San Antonio and solving the problems that we're going to have for transportation and water and all the things that we're involved with the Central Texas Alliance. That's going to make this region a force for good for in the future, like it's fastest growing region in North America. And let's take advantage of what we have here and share it with the world and get more people coming to us.
Bryant, will you take how you think about branding as well as expansion opportunity?
Absolutely. So I came here as the brand manager for Pace Pecani sauce. So yeah, hey, and I'm not here anymore, but but it was awesome. And other things I hear got built out of that, but we'll talk about that later. But if you want to think about San Antonio as a brand, just think about what a mega company, one of the most respected companies in the world, just made a decision to do in San Antonio. And each and every one of you are part of the fabric that created that decision. That they thought, hey, it's a great idea to spend $3.6 billion to come and move even more operations. Some of that has to do with I hear we like trucks here, but
Toyota, yes.
Yes, absolutely. That Toyota would make that decision. And I have to do this. There are two women in this crowd today that absolutely need to be recognized for the work that they did. And Sarah and Jenna, the way you guys coordinated this city to make that happen is absolutely incredible. Absolutely. And some really smart decision making 25 years ago to get the initial plant here, and then the stewardship and the culture of the city to cause, they had every option in the world to them. You have no idea the kind of subsidies that can be given to a company like that, and yet they chose this place. And so culture, right, is just the root of brand. So because that's its authenticity. And that's what this city does so extraordinarily well. I'm thrilled that I got to raise my family in a city like San Antonio. So make sure you open your Pearl water, by the way, on the brand.
We'll have more on the way out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Juan, will you close that question out for us? How do you think, as perhaps one of the largest success stories of a local brand going national, international, how do you think about San Antonio as your home?
Yeah, for me, it's really pretty straightforward. So we're one of the largest financial services firms in the country, and we're not based in New York. So it starts there. It's the fact that we're uniquely Texan, and we've been here for 104 years. And the reason we're here and the reason why we're still here is pretty straightforward. We were started by 25 soldiers here in San Antonio who basically could not get insurance from anybody else because they thought they were too high risk. So they came together and they essentially formed what has become now USAA. So for us, our roots are here. We're here, and we're very happy that we've expanded all over the country and that we've done a number of other things. But we still have 18,000 employees here. We hire thousands of employees every year into San Antonio, into Dallas, into our Plano office. And for us, it's a point of pride and it's a point of heritage. And we're very proud of that.
Thank you all. What a fascinating discussion that was to hear from each of you on that topic. So thank you for your openness. We have our poll result, which is growth, San Antonio growth. So thanks to you who texted in. We'll still take your text messages if you have other thoughts or think it was the wrong answer. But there was also a reference to the mega region shortly ago, so I wanted to jump into this one. When we had our last C-suite conversation 2 years ago, San Antonio, New Braunfels in the area was among the fastest growing in the nation. The stratospheric year-over-year growth we were enjoying then is now leveling out, leaving our municipalities and businesses scrambling to adjust their strategies some. So I would ask, what are San Antonio's challenges and opportunities at this moment as growth seems to potentially be slowing down a little? Juan, do you want to take it first?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. Look, where there's challenges, there's always opportunity. And we have certain things in San Antonio that other cities don't have, right? So we have a large military industrial complex here that contributes about $150 billion to the Texas economy on a pretty much of an annual basis. We have all these universities, and some of them are here today. We have great education at the end of the day, right? I think that's a terrific thing. And I think we have a skilled workforce at the same time. And that's one of the reasons why Toyota and others are attractive to come into our market, right? Now, the challenge is we do have poverty, and we do have homelessness, and we do have different challenges. But this is frankly where companies like ours need to do what we need to do to be able to support the growth in that community, do things like what SATX has been able to do with getting Toyota. We just need to do a lot more of that as we go forward. And frankly, it's one of the reasons why USAA recommitted last year to civic engagement back into San Antonio to be able to do more things for our community. So for us, you deal the cards that you're played with at the end of the day, and then it's really a question of how you take it from there.
Bryant, we'll kick to you on that one.
Yeah, so a lot of times back at Silver, I'll say, the world's never run out of money. Now, it's half joking. All you have to do is change your investment horizon and you'll see a different return. So for us, particularly in San Antonio, how do we make sure that we're telling a story of optimism about the growth of San Antonio going forward? And then we collaborate across these, whether it's Project Marvel or whether it's the minor league.
We don't say that anymore.
Oh, that's right. That's a curse
Nobody
word.
likes that name.
What do I call it now?
We're not there yet.
Oh, you need a brand, right? Because you think about all of the tailwinds that San Antonio has right now, not just where we are blessed to be geographically, but just we have at least a top 5 marketing property that's, is he 7'4"? Worldwide.
7'5".
7'5" with a wingspan of, okay, well, we'll cover that later. So this is just an extraordinary time for San Antonio. And from a standpoint of collaborating across all of these different businesses to continue our education progress, to create placemaking, and quite frankly, to figure out the Central Business District. I am thrilled that the Spurs are coming back to the Central Business District. I am thrilled the project that Randy Smith's doing at Weston Urban to bring things back to the Central Business District. And we need to continue to talk about all the positive things that are going on to attract the money is out there. There's an extraordinary amount of money sitting on the sidelines that's ready to invest. And that's our opportunity as a city to present ourselves with best foot forward.
Great. That's a great transition. We are having this conversation at Texas Public Radio's headquarters in downtown San Antonio, and the neighborhood around this building is changing rapidly. A few blocks to the north, we have a Missions ballpark nearing time to break ground, and the much anticipated downtown Spurs Arena project Hemisphere is moving forward too. Just this week, the city bought a federal building that is key to the footprint of the project formerly known as Marvel. RC, much of this is on your plate. Most of the conversation around the downtown district has been about the arena itself, with some other projects like the hotel and land bridge already lopped off from the original vision. What kinds of development do you see as key to achieving something close to the original vision for a sports and entertainment district that is successful for both the developer community and San Antonio residents?
I'm not sure I'm smart enough to answer all that, but what I will say is downtown San Antonio is going through a renovation, a rejuvenation like very few places I've ever seen. What Silver did at the Pearl on the northeast side of downtown is amazing. Randy's development at the northwest corner is going to revolutionize this corner of downtown. UT San Antonio and the cyber and data science campus that is down 10,000 students downtown, and then the arena development and we're putting $2 billion outside of the arena into the H Park. So again, the money that's being spent, the opportunity for this community to grow is in an amazing place. Can I go back to the last question just a little bit? And I think the other thing is we do to focus on the growth of San Antonio is to bring the amazing groups we have and communities we have in this community and bring them together. I don't know a damn thing about running a business. What I can do is build teams. And I think we're seeing that out at the Rock with HROC and this Human Research Optimization Center, where we bring together UT San Antonio, both their education and their health programming, where we bring together SWRI, where we bring together military medicine, where we bring together professional sports and the resources around the world that are all trying to solve for how AI is going to impact it. People, weren't built to face the computers that are in front of us these days. So how do we optimize cognitive performance? AI and coaching, how do we take advantage of the things that are here? How do we research that with the unbelievable leadership that we have in our communities and bring them together in a way that our brands will go throughout the world in places we don't even know? Really, the vision of HROC is humans, humanity. What do we learn about elite performance of the individual that can be scaled to teams, organizations, communities, that can be scaled throughout the world in a way that are, again, the strengths of our communities, SWRI, UT San Antonio, Spurs, military medicine. You bring all that together, there's going to be some amazing things that come together.
Yeah, Bryant, Pearl is a great example of a development that has become a community hub. What lessons did you all learn in the development process that you want the designers of these downtown projects to keep in mind?
Look, I could talk to you about activation of the ground floor. I could talk to you about how you create enough park space so that you can have a Spurs watch party. I could talk to you about all of that, but really there's two critical parts to this. One is human scaling. How do you present everything so that a human being feels like they can be involved in that? And look, again, back to our Toyotas and our trucks, we love those things, but they make us a little less human. So how do you create a pedestrian experience where we actually get to interact with each other? The thing I am the most proud of about Pearl, by far, and it's not close, is every single night, people are eating cheeseburgers and chicken tenders next to a 1-star Michelin and a 2-key Michelin hotel. We don't get to interact like that as a society. We gate ourselves off. We don't get to interact. The second thing, and I promise this will be quick, is storytelling. We have some remarkable human beings that started this place. I get to work for one. Kit Goldsberry's an amazing human being, but he doesn't let me tell his story, so I have to move on. Emma Kaler is an amazing story. And when you get to tell that story through buildings and through artifacts, and then these buildings come alive. We don't talk about Otto either. We put him in the ice house. But it's not just a story of Pearl is not just a story that's scandalous. It's a story that as a human being, I can identify with a female CEO in Prohibition who didn't have the right to vote. Think about that challenge. And that the hope that we can identify with, I'm going through something rough, or we're all going, everybody in this room is. But that kind of story that can be told through development, and then it's not nostalgia, it's legacy. And there's some amazing companies up here that know how to do legacy in incredible ways and should be congratulated for it.
Debbie, do you have anything to add on this idea of downtown growth, the opportunities, challenges, what San Antonio needs to do in this moment?
For a brand like Whataburger, and, we're just there. It's the, when you think about our ability, I think, to connect people from their perhaps very first jobs And the opportunity to take youth and introduce them to the structure and the life lessons and learnings that they may or may not have experienced at their home or through education. We don't think about it as a first job. We think it as an entry point into their career and a launching spot for what they might dream to become. And yes, we have our headquarters here, so we have wonderful educated C-suite and leadership that have a disciplinary education and expertise. But what I love most are the people that I get to meet with that are behind the counter, that are operating and learning again to serve and are finding their way through life in a way that will build upon opportunities that maybe wouldn't otherwise have been provided. And so we want to be a fabric of the community that's been, again, from the very beginning. It's part of our culture, and do so, maybe in a quieter, humble way. So as we grow in San Antonio, and it is a vibrant growth place that we want to be a part of, it's also about having a zoo, that has a wonderful experience for their families and for the kids. It's about, feeding student success and how we might educate people and youth to want to stay in San Antonio and find the career path, however that may evolve. And so I just think it's about when the word community has been used several times, and I will tell you, that is a word that very well describes San Antonio and the companies and the leadership that comes together to make it a vibrant place for both our youth as well as for the education system, as well as for the companies that will continue to thrive here. So I just, that's how I think about it, is that we try to show up in the corners and the spaces to make a difference for the families and the lives that get impacted by both the wonderful growth that's happening, as well as when there's a crisis or a moment of support that is needed.
Well, and many of these brands on this stage are visible at things like Spurs games. And I'm curious if any of your organizations have roles in the downtown development, whether as restaurant concepts in the ballpark. Maybe it's too early to ask this question, but I'm asking it anyway. Or as corporate sponsors. And I also am wondering about the chance for naming rights of the new arena, and if any of these brands on this stage might be considered. RC?
Sure. What Debbie shared, though, too, our community comes together in times of great excitement, the playoffs or whatever. I'm not sure I've ever seen a community come together in times of crisis like our community does. And we've seen that in place, unfortunately, too many times. But the way our biggest companies and our biggest, all of our people throughout the community come together in times of crisis is like no place I've ever seen.
So we own a piece of land across from the hemisphere. And the first most important job we needed to figure out was, how do we integrate that into the Southtown, where the character and beauty that is Southtown and the personality that it has is integrated into that whole development. And then work with the Spurs and go, okay, now what you're doing on the other side of the street, and this phrase of two hands clapping, how does it feel that it's all integrated as a single community, and that the heritage of that entire place is honored with the storytelling that, it's just so rich. On that property that we get to develop is the first public school in San Antonio. So there'll probably be a story in there somewhere, right? This is just
our development reporter is in the room, so say more.
Well, that's the lift, right? If we just build big buildings and we don't consider how the community gets to interact with that, and we don't respect the community that's already there, then it's just going to be a bunch of buildings that somebody made a lot of money on, and 15 years later will get torn down. That's the reality. Now, if you take a much longer investment thesis and you say, hey, I'm going to take a 20 to 25 year view of my return, you're going to have a completely different thought about what materials you use and what spacing and what height you can use, because that building's still going to be there 50 years from now. So it's just a different investment decision based upon the horizon you're using.
Yeah, we'll add to that as well. You know, one of the things that Debbie and RC said earlier was really about community. And the way I think about it is where there's will and where there's intent, you can actually make a lot of things happen. You know, from our perspective at USAA, we're doing a number of things, right? So we're using a lot of our low-income tax credits to basically build affordable housing in San Antonio to help mitigate the homelessness problem. And I think that is a very important thing to be doing. In addition to that, we've been great supporters of UT San Antonio, particularly in their downtown campus, to be able to support the students, to be able to support the vibrancy of that community around that. And we're also working with the Alamo Trust to really help bring that vision to life, because that attracts millions of people a year. It attracts a lot of families, attracts a lot of businesses into the area. So for us, that part of it has become very relevant as well.
Well, and that's a great transition to something else I wanted to ask about, which is that each of your organizations has been involved in significant philanthropy locally. Obviously, giving back to your community is the right thing to do, but I think each of you would also argue that it's good business. Can you explain the business case behind your charitable efforts and maybe help convince businesses who are on the fence about adding expenses in the area of philanthropy that giving back is worth it? Juan, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. I mean, look, I think about it from the perspective of corporate responsibility, right? We have a responsibility, we have a duty as a company that's done well, that's been successful, to support our local community. And that is a lot of the impetus that we have in our civic engagement strategies. But on the business side of things, it's ultimately about trust, right? You know, we have a large military population in San Antonio. A lot of the things that we do are to create that level of trust, to empower that community. It's the reason why we launched Honor Through Action and committed $500 million last year to basically solve 3 problems that have been endemic to the military community, and that's quality jobs, financial security, and well-being at the end of the day. And this is where we work with great companies like the Spurs, frankly, and Whataburger to help basically amplify that so more people can see the impact that you have. Ultimately, that brings emotion, that brings trust, and ultimately that's good for business.
Debbie, will you take that one?
Yeah, I think that it is, you know, what I love about each one of our Whataburger restaurants is our operating partners have the autonomy and the empowerment to do what is needed within their community. And we have local, regional leaders like Monica in the audience that helps us within San Antonio to touch and to connect with different organizations, because when you can fuel multiple smaller organizations that all come together to act, it makes such a difference. We know that those moments around organizations to help with bereavement after the Kerrville flooding, or doing art projects for students in the summer to help with hunger and offering kids meals in organizations, like those may all individually seem like very small moments, but we know that they all add up and make a huge difference in families' lives. And so creating the empowerment, I think, is a big way through Whataburger that we can, you know, we want our leaders to be empowered to do that and to take action without corporate, if you will, having to define or create the structure around it. So however we can fund that, empower our leaders, helps us across all of our 1,200 locations, I think, take action. And we're learning about, as we scale to a bigger and bigger footprint across the US, we're gonna learn how we take something like feeding student success and make it even better and bigger, which is a fun problem, you know, which is a fun problem to have, to scale and grow and then make a difference.
RC?
Impact has always been a part of the Spurs vision for San Antonio, but I don't think we did a great job of, if you ask people, do the Spurs do good things? I think people would have said yes. Do they ask them, what do they do? I'm not sure they could often tell you over the course of our time together. And when I stepped into this role, we did a really intense strategic planning and identified championship teams, impact, and financial strength as our 3 strategic objectives. And so impact is at the top of all the decisions that we make organizationally. Defining, we build leaders and legacies where we live, learn, work, and play, helped us know what we could do and what we needed to say no to. And then activating through that, there's always going to be tensions with business. How much money do you spend? Where does your time and your attention go? And oftentimes impact lives over in the corner with a group of 6 people activating on that. And we really try to move it throughout the organization with responsibilities throughout, including it as we look at new partnerships. All of our new partnerships are purpose-built. So there is an impact initiative that we define with the partnerships that we're growing together with in how we activate there. We took our former practice facility in the medical center and made it now a community center that is focused on impact, not just on youth sports, but on mental health training. We have over 2,000 coaches in a coaching development program right now, and we're expanding how we impact and influence future leaders in our communities. And I think the first thing we needed to do was listen. And we've spent more time listening to what the community needs rather than just coming and giving them what we think they need. And I think that's oftentimes a great place to start, is to listen first.
Yeah, I don't think to go to the question about how do you talk, other businesses into the role of philanthropy. I'm not sure what Pearl looks like without philanthropy. Because when that place was a demilitarized zone, and that's what it was, right? You went down there to do illegal activity or go to the haunted house during Halloween. And so when a group of really brilliant people, specifically Kit Goldsberry, convinced the Culinary Institute of America to move to Pearl, that changed everything. Because at the heart of that is, how do you move folks who are perennially stuck in the back of the kitchen and you move them to executive chef positions or even positions of ownership? Now you're changing lives. Well, Culinary Institute gives a pathway toward that. And quite frankly, that wasn't going to happen without a significant move of philanthropy. And what has happened now with that catalyst, they are doing great. And now it's actually motivating our flywheel of business innovation, because we're getting these chefs out and they are just, young enough and idealistic enough to think, I could own my own restaurant. Perfect. You want to come here? We'll rent you space. So that's how, if you really weave your philanthropy into the vision or how you do your business, which for us, and you had read that, repeatedly reinventing the shared experience of food and learning, then that core piece of Culinary Institute and now Hospitality Academy is necessary for our business. It's not a good thing to do. It is necessary for the health of the business.
Great. We have so little time to get to everything. I have like 15 more questions I wanted to ask, but I do want to end on a note of leadership. This is an incredibly experienced leadership stage. We have a lot of leaders in the room in their various industries. So I'd like to hear from you words of advice, what you've learned about leadership over your period of time in those roles. And Bryant, we'll start with you and we'll go back down the stage.
I tell people the first thing to be a leader is you have to have followers, right? And so I just don't know how else to express that except to say, do you love people? Like, really, even the ones that annoy you? And I think once you start from there and you go, okay, look, there is nothing more exciting in my day than to get to watch people that I really care about do things they didn't think they themselves were capable of doing. This is like a drug that I can't get off of. And I get to do this every single day, whether it's through the investments that we make. We still make investments in agriculture and other food companies, or I get to watch it with the entrepreneurs that are at the base. So from a standpoint of, do folks who look at me really sense from me that I actually care about them and the future that they want to create for themselves? If you want to be a great leader, and by the way, that's the best version of Bryant Ambelang. There's a table back there that will tell you the worst version of him. But that's really, if you want to be a leader, do you genuinely care about other human beings?
I think when the Holt family joined the Spurs investor group, bringing values-based leadership into our organization gave us a foundation of who we wanted to hire, who we wanted to select as players, who we wanted to have as coaches, who we want to be partners with. And having the foundation of values-based leaderships and people that are selected on aligned values then gives you an opportunity to lead in a way that really helps teams grow. And that's what leadership is, I think. And I've been the most fortunate person in the world to have spent 37 years with Pop. And the way he built the opportunity for others to succeed, I think that's leadership. We now have more than 15 coaches that left or that started in our program, and our head coaches in the league. We have a dozen general managers who started in our front office and have gone on. The players that have had success, just the people who live in our community. San Antonio, another plug in San Antonio as a community. We have more than 30 former players living in San Antonio. And many of them played here, left, and came back. Monty Williams, Antonio Daniels. There's many like that. George Hill. Putting those people in a position to be successful is what allows great leadership to happen. And also, I think it builds leadership for the people that are growing with you.
Yeah. Debbie, will you take that one?
You know, I think that what a huge question.
Sorry.
I like others have mentioned, have had the opportunity to have worked for and observed some incredible leaders and entrepreneurs in my life that have certainly helped shape my values and what matters to me. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Tom Dobson here as being one of the latest people that you just admire so much because of the care, the discipline, the standards of excellence that start to just become part of your DNA. But I think my most favorite saying in the moment, and I'm continuing to learn, I will say that, is that leaders create the conditions for success. And I just wake up every day thinking about, have I created the clarity? Have I created the alignment amongst my team? And am I creating the inspiration? Because we ought to have fun in this hard work that we do every day. And if you have those things in the context of your business, then you will watch your leadership team and the people around you just bloom beyond whatever potential you may have thought was even possible. And that is what gets me like I jump out of bed every morning thinking about what we can do in order to create the conditions for other people to succeed.
I think that's terrific. And there's definitely a theme here, because what I would tell you is leadership is not about you. If you get to one of these roles and you think that it is about power, money, yourself, arrogance, you got the wrong motivation. Ultimately, the reason for doing this is you have to have a higher reason and a higher calling. And what Debbie and Bryant were saying is absolutely right. You get success and satisfaction by watching your team grow, watching them succeed, watching them develop. And to me, that's one of the most important things, because that's how you build followership at the end of the day. Humility is a big part of that.
We wouldn't be here today without the leadership of Greater San Antonio, Texas. So we're so grateful for Greater SATX for their work on this event. And I'm going to invite up to the stage Sarah Karabias-Rush, the CEO, to give some remarks. We'll stay on the stage and we'll close our program.
Wow. Thank you all for these insights and the incredible conversation today. That was fun. We laughed. We learned. Truly lucky to have leaders like you in this community here in San Antonio. I actually had opening remarks and we got a little mixed up earlier. So I had to rewrite some comments while we were sitting out there. And it gave me a great, no, that's okay. That's wonderful. It actually gave me a chance to really step back and hear what was being said and be able to reflect on that. You know, at Greater SATX, we get a lot of attention for the big deals that come in, right? The big Toyota announcements. And those are incredible, right? They're what we work so hard for every day. But, you know, if we're not creating the business climate, developing the workforce that we need, ensuring we have a quality of place that we can feel at home in, a sense of culture. I mean, I lived and worked in Dallas forever. Culture here in San Antonio is unlike any place in the world. And we should be proud of that and continue to foster that. These are the things that, one, attract the new investments, but two, keep companies like these investing here in San Antonio over and over and over. So in a lot of ways today, what I wanted to do was get up here and write a love letter to you all. We were with Randy and Ben this morning and talking about just how important these companies are to our economy, to our community. They are making investments at the scale of Toyota investments on an ongoing basis over time, right? Continuing to invest, creating impact, and driving a brand for San Antonio that frankly makes my job a lot easier. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to congratulate TPR and the essay report. You all are doing truly innovative work as well in terms of thinking about how we look at things differently from a journalism perspective, and we're proud to be affiliated with that. I would encourage the folks in this room, if I could ask you anything, it is please keep innovating, keep driving this leadership here in San Antonio, keep collaborating and showing up for one another. And most importantly, please, 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 if you're not already, start telling the story of excitement and energy and optimism that is San Antonio. We are at a moment in time that is incredible. The momentum is behind us. Yes, there are some crazy things going on in the global economy, but our pipeline is strong. We are at a really unique point in time. We should be proud and we should be shouting that from the rooftops. So thank you.
And we're so grateful to Texas Public Radio for hosting us today. Board Chair Alan Kramer will close our time.
Well, thank you all for being here. My name is Alan Kramer. As indicated, I'm the board chair of TPR. It is my absolute pleasure that I get the opportunity to work with such a great team of journalists, event specialists, and now, as you've heard several times, but just to make it abundantly clear, as of July 1st, TPR and the San Antonio Report have come together. But here's where the pitch comes. We heard about storytelling today. We heard about growth. We heard about culture. And we heard about moments in time. Well, guess what? Our coming together between TPR and San Antonio Report is going to create the largest nonprofit newsroom in South Texas, full stop. So, for a fact. But here's what's better. It's nonprofit and there's no paywalls. Everybody in this room can access all of that news free of charge and help tell the story of these great companies and what's going on in San Antonio and help us do that. So on your screen, you will see some QR codes. I encourage you, beseech you, and honestly, I thought you were going to do this for me, so I thought I wasn't going to have to do this, Sarah. I'd ask you, support the work of these two organizations that are now one. Help us continue to have these great events to bring amazing leaders like this onto the stage to share their wisdom with us and help us promote all the great things that are going on in San Antonio and South Texas. So with that, I hope you all can help us today with that enjoyable event has come to a close. And I thank you all for your time and appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day.